Erev Tov, everyone. Erev Tov. It is Monday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the Maimon Beit Knesset. Therefore, it must be Zeyde's Story Corner. Exactly, Zeyde's Story Corner. So we're going to continue on with the stories of Isaac Bashevis. If I can, there we are. Isaac Bashevis Singer. And last week we left off in a cliffhanger. Once again, a cliffhanger. Let's check and see who we have in the chat room. We have Donald, and we have Marshall, and Kelsey Lynn, and Shoshi. And they just keep popping in. Yeah, they just keep popping in. And there's a number of people who are watching either on their phones or their tablets and aren't able to get into the chat room, but we know you're out there. And okay, so you're out building today. Yes, I was, well, maybe not building. I was actually tearing down, preparing to build. And so only you didn't hurt yourself. Well, why would you say that? I mean, well, look at the last time. Oh, well. Okay, well, yeah. I mean, I did not hurt myself. We were tearing these stairs off of the back porch to put new stairs on, and it went fairly well. No injuries, and we're safe and sound, and here we are this evening. So, I wanted to give, Simcha has joined us. With Raul and Yehuda, and the whole gang, So we're preparing to build new steps on the back porch, and because they needed them, they were really falling apart. And you did the front porch, yeah. We actually did the front porch. Earlier this year, and we were going to paint, but unfortunately, we haven't had 3 days in a row of decent weather to dry out the wood, so we're going to have to wait till spring, and then we'll paint it then. So, but it looks good. Yeah, it does look good. It does look very good. And what's up with Zeyde? Nothing much. I just sit here and study. Yeah. Well, some of us do get to sit around all day and study, but some of us actually have to work for a living. Like who? Well, who do you think? Oh, you mean you. What you do is work. Yeah. What I do is work, yes. Yes, it is. So anyway, maybe we should just go on. Marilyn has joined us. Maybe we should just go on with the Torah story time, should we? Yeah, if you can actually say it. Yeah, I can say it. Yeah. We'll get on with the story time. Let me put you on your camera. Oh, wow, look at that. Well, I have a background. I feel like a big shot now. I am an important Zeyde. Okay. With a professional background. Well, maybe not a professional background, but he still looks good. Okay, don't get to see all the collectibles on the shelf anymore, but this looks better. Okay, so we are going to continue with our story tonight. And this was, now I forgot the name of the goat. Zlata the goat. That was it, Zlata the goat. Okay, so this is where we left off last week, and we pick up tonight. Okay, so here we go. The snow grew thicker, falling on the ground in large whirling flakes. Beneath it, Aharon's boots touched the softness of a plowed field. He realized that he was no longer on the road. He had gone astray. He could no longer figure out which way was east and which way was west, and which way was the village, the town, and so on. And the wind whistled, howled, whirled, and the snow about in eddies. It looked as if white imps were playing tag in the fields. A white dust rose above the ground. Zlata stopped. She could walk no longer. Stubbornly, she anchored her cleft hooves in the earth and bleated as if pleading to be taken home. Icicles were hanging from her white beard, and her horns were glazed with frost. And here we pick up from this week. Aharon did not want to admit the danger, but he knew just the same that if they did not find shelter, they would freeze to death. This was no ordinary storm. It was a mighty blizzard. The snowfall had reached his knees. His hands were numb, and he could no longer feel his toes. He choked when he breathed. His nose felt like wood, and he rubbed it with snow. That's what we old people used to do back in the, feel a little frostbite, and we rub the snow on it. I don't know if that's actually correct or not, but that's what we used to do. So there you go. Zlata's bleeding began to sound like crying. Those humans in whom she had so much confidence had dragged her into a trap. Aharon began to pray to God for himself and for the innocent animal. Suddenly, he made out the shape of a hill. He wondered what it could be. Who had piled snow into such a large heap? As he moved towards it, dragging Zlata after him, when he came near it, he realized that it was a large haystack, which the snow had blanketed. Aharon realized immediately that they were saved. With great effort, he dug his way through the snow. He was a village boy, knew what to do. When he reached the hay, he hollowed out a nest for himself and the goat. No matter how cold it may be outside, in the hay it was always warm. The hay was food for Zlata. The moment she smelled it, she became contented and began to eat. Outside, the snow continued to fall. It quickly covered the passage Aharon had dug. But a boy and an animal need to breathe, and there was hardly any air in their hideout. Aharon bore a kind of a window through the hay and snow and carefully kept the passage clear. Zlata, having eaten her fill, sat down on her hind legs and seemed to be resigned her confidence in man. Regained her confidence in man. You need to clean your glasses? No, I don't need to clean my glasses. It's just, Okay, let's try to do better. Okay. Aharon ate his 2 slices of bread and cheese. But after the difficult journey, he was still hungry. He looked at Zlata and noticed her udders were full. He lay down next to her, placing himself so that when he milked her, he could squirt the milk into his mouth. It was rich and sweet. Zlata was not accustomed to being milked that way, but she did not resist. On the contrary, she seemed eager to reward Aharon for bringing her to a shelter whose very walls, floor, and ceiling were made of food. Through the window, Aharon could catch a glimpse of the chaos outside. The wind carried before it whole drifts of snow. It was completely dark, and he did not know whether night had already come or whether it was the darkness of the storm. Thank God that the hay was not cold. The dried hay grass, the field flowers exuded the warmth of the summer sun. Zlata ate frequently. She nibbled from above, below, from the left and the right. Her body gave forth warmth of an animal, and Aharon cuddled up to her. He had always loved Zlata, but now she was like a sister. He was alone, cut off from his family, and wanted to talk. He began to talk to Zlata. Zlata, what do you think about what is happening to us? He asked. Ma, Zlata answered. If we hadn't found this stack of hay, we would both be frozen stiff by now, Aharon said. Ma, was the ghost's reply. If the snow keeps on falling like this, we may have to stay here for days, Aharon explained. Ma, Zlata bleated. And what does ma mean? Aharon asked. You better speak up clearly. Ma, Zlata tried. Well, let it be ma then, Aharon said patiently. You can speak, but I know you understand. I need you and you need me. Isn't that right? Ma. Aharon became sleepy. He made a pillow out of some hay, leaned his head on it, and dozed off. Zlata too fell asleep. When Aharon opened his eyes, he didn't know whether it was morning or night. The snow had blocked up the window. He tried to clear it, but when he had bored through to the length of his arm, he still hadn't reached the outside. Luckily, he had his stick with him and was able to break through to the open air. It was still dark outside. The snow continued to fall, and the wind wailed first with one voice and then with many. Sometimes it had the sound of devilish laughter. Zlata too awoke, and when Aharon greeted her, she answered, Ma. Yes, Zlata's language consisted of only one word, but it meant many things. Now, she was saying, we must accept all that God has given us: heat, cold, hunger, satisfaction, light, and darkness. Aharon had awakened hungry. He had eaten up his food, but Zlata had plenty of milk. For 3 days, Aharon and Zlata stayed in the haystack. Aharon had always loved Zlata, but in these 3 days he loved her more and more. She fed him with her milk and helped him keep warm. She comforted him with her patience. He told her many stories, and she always cocked her ears and listened. When he patted her, she licked his hand and his face. Then she said, "My," and he knew what it meant. "I love you too." The snow fell for 3 days. Though, after the first day, it was not as thick and the wind quieted down. Sometimes Aharon felt that there could never have been a summer, that the snow had always fallen. Ever since he could remember, he, Aharon, never had a father or a mother or sisters. He was a snow child, born of the snow, and so was Lotta. It was so quiet in the hay that his ears rang in the stillness. Aharon and Zlata slept all night and a good part of the day. As for Aharon's dreams, they were all about warm weather. He dreamed of green fields, trees covered with blossoms, clear brooks, and singing birds. By the 3rd night, the snow had stopped. But Aharon did not dare to find his way home in the darkness. The sky became clear, and the moon shone, casting silvery nets on the snow. Aharon dug his way out and looked at the world. It was all white, quiet, dreaming dreams of heavenly splendor. The stars were large and close. The moon swam in the sky as in a sea. On the morning of the 4th day, Aharon heard the ringing of sleigh bells. Probably a troika, huh? Probably a troika. Anyway, the haystack was not far from the road. The peasant who drove the sleigh pointed out the way to him, not to the town and Fievel the butcher, but home to the village. Aharon had decided in the haystack that he would never part with Zlata. Aharon's family and their neighbors had searched for the boy and the goat, but had found no trace of them during this storm. They feared they were lost. Aharon's mother and sisters cried for him. His father remained silent and gloomy. Suddenly, one of the neighbors came running to their house with the news that Aharon and Zlata were coming up the road. There was great joy in the family. Aharon told them how he had found the stack of hay and how Zlata had fed him with her milk. Aharon's sisters kissed and hugged Zlata and gave her a special treat of chopped carrots and potato peels, which Zlata gobbled up hungrily. Nobody ever thought again of selling Zlata. And now that the cold weather had finally set in, the villagers needed the services of Reuven, the furrier once more. That is Aharon's father, if you don't remember. When Hanukkah came, Aharon's mother was able to fry pancakes every evening, and Zlata got her portion too. Even though Zlata had her own pan, she often came to the kitchen, knocking on the door with her horns to indicate that she was ready to visit. And she was always admitted. In the evening, Aharon, Miriam, and Anna played dreidel. Zlata sat near the stove watching the children and the flickering of the Hanukkah candles. Once in a while, Aharon would ask her, "Zlata, do you remember the 3 days we spent together?" And Zlata would scratch her neck with her horn, shake her white bearded head, and come out with the single sound which expressed all her thoughts and all her love. And that is Zlata the goat. Okay, let's see. It is Reb Moshe has joined us, and so has Richard. Good to have you both. Okay. So, we move on. And those of you who know Reb Moshe, I want to say you should donate to him. Keep those videos coming and those trips to the kotel and the singing of the psalms every day. It's a good thing. It's a mitzvah for him to perform for you. So help him out. Okay, we go on with the stories. This one is called A Hanukkah in Warsaw. For 2 weeks now, Warsaw, and perhaps all Poland, had lain in the grip of a cold spell, the likes of which hadn't been seen in years. But I, a child not yet 7, kept going to cheder early every morning. We, my parents, my older brother, Yehoshua, my sister, Hindale, my younger brother, Moshe, and I lived at 10 Krachmala Street, and the cheder was located at 5 Grzybowska Street. In the morning, an assistant to the teacher came to take me to cheder, and he brought me home again in the evenings. To keep me from freezing on the way, Mother wrapped me in 2 woolen vests, 2 pair of socks and gloves. She stuck a hood on my head, which covered my red hair and earlocks. When I looked in the mirror, I could not recognize myself and stuck my tongue out at the stranger. The long winter night passed full of dreams. Now I dreamed I was an emperor, and now a beggar. An old crone of a gypsy snatched me and locked me in a cellar. I also dreamed that it was summer and that I was strolling with Shosha, the daughter of the neighbor Bachelor, in a garden full of blooming flowers and singing birds. I sailed a boat on the Vistula, but soon pirates captured me and spirited me off to Madagascar to be sold into slavery. My dreams blended with my fantasies and with the tales I had heard from my mother or read in storybooks. The winter morning was cold but sunny one. The sky above the rooftops loomed with light blue. Although our ovens was heated with wood and coal, frost patterns had formed on our windows overnight. They resembled trees, not those common to Poland, but rather the day palms, the fig, the carob trees, the Bible said grew in the land of Israel. Normally, I stayed at Heller until nightfall, but that day was the eve of Hanukkah, and I was scheduled to come home earlier than usual. I liked Hanukkah, the only holiday that came in the winter. In the evenings, right after services, Father would bless the Hanukkah candles, Mother would fry potato pancakes, I would get a tin dreidel, and the money for the holidays. I could hardly wait to get home. Before I left the house, Mother gave me a paper bag containing bread and butter, cheese, and an apple. This was to be my second breakfast. The assistant teacher took my hand and led me down the stairs into the street. Mother warned him not to let go of me. In such a large city, a child could easily get lost. The streets were filled with sleighs, and I was liable to be run over. God forbid. I was ashamed that my mother was such a warrior. She came from a small town, and provincial people imagined all kinds of dangers in the big city. I had come to Warsaw when I was 3, and I considered myself a city boy. I could have gone to Cheder by myself. I didn't have to be escorted there. I envied the other children my age who went to Cheder alone. It seemed to me they laughed at me for being escorted like a baby. God in heaven, how different the street looked today, all covered by the fresh snow that had fallen overnight. The sleighs, the pedestrians hadn't yet managed to trample it, and it glared beneath the sun, reflecting dazzling crystals of every color of the rainbow. One solitary tree grew on our street, and its naked branches were covered with frost. They reminded me of the arms of the huge Hanukkah candelabrum. Sleighs rode by with bells on horses, collars jingling. The animals' nostrils exuded steam. Cushions of snow lay on roofs and balconies. The whole world had turned white, rich, and dreamlike. And here we pause, we take our break here, and when we return, we continue with our story. We find out what happens to the boy, huh? Okay, so everybody stay tuned. We will be back in 6.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies. Everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. now, on with the show.
And we are back, just as promised. Okay, let's find out what happens in Warsaw, shall we? Okay, Chapter 2. Donald, I think you can see where this is going, don't you? Okay, anyway, let's move on. Chapter 2. Coming to Cheder was for me a daily trial. The other pupils quickly made friends with one another. They conducted all kinds of secret business transactions among themselves. One boy gave another a silver button and got a gold button in exchange. Quietly, so the teacher wouldn't see, they traded pencils, pens, and sometimes chocolates and cookies they brought from home. Most of the students were sons of storekeepers or factory owners and were already little businessmen themselves. Their parents lived in the wealthier streets. Some of the students brought a different toy to Cheder each day. Lead shoulders. Oh, David has joined us. Good to see you, David. So anyway, lead soldiers, whistles, trumpets. One boy had a pen with a peephole. When you looked into it, you saw Krakow. Another boy had a music box. When you turned the key, it played a tune. One boy had a real watch. Most of them had black hair and some were blonde, but no one in the Cheder besides me had hair as red as fire. Hey, interesting. I heard that Rabbi Nachman of Breslov had the red hair. You know that? Yeah, I had read that. He talked about his wild red hair. You know, the other rabbis would speak derogatorily about him. Maybe this is a story about him, huh? Well, I don't know. Let's keep reading and we'll find out. Okay, so anyway, him and his hair is red as fire, huh? Okay. Nor did anyone else wear such long earlocks. What are you looking at? No, nothing. Anyway, I was a rabbi's son, and my parents dressed me in the old-fashioned style. I had been raised in Warsaw, but I looked like a yokel. The boys laughed at me and my small-town costumes. They even mocked the way I pronounced some words in Yiddish. Besides, they couldn't do any trading with me. I brought nothing to Cheder except my Pentateuch. I always felt ashamed when I came to Cheder, and I often prayed to God to let me grow up faster so I could be through with being a child. But I had some satisfaction too. All children love to hear stories. Some adults too, huh? Yeah, some adults too, yeah. Love to hear stories. And I had acquired the reputation as a storyteller. I was able to add my own fantasies to stories I had read in the Pentateuch. At Hanukkah time, the teacher studied with us the section that dealt with Yosef and his brothers. I retained the meaning of the Hebrew words better than many of the other children, and I repeated the tale as if I had been there in person. Just like you should do on Pesach, huh? As I've been saying for years now. Anyway, Joseph's dreams became my dreams. The brothers envied me and sold me into slavery to the Ishmaelites, who in turn sold me to the Egyptians. Potiphar, who had imprisoned me, and later I became viceroy to Paro. Yaakov, Yosef, and the other tribes, Lavan, Rachel, Leah, Bilhah, Zilpah, were all as close and familiar to me as my own mother and father, as our neighbor Bashele and her daughter Shosha, with whom I carried on an unspoken love affair. As I sat in Heder over the Petatuach, I yearned for her and her childish words, which held 1,000 delights for me. By 3 o'clock, we had concluded our parsha, and the teacher, Reb Moshe Yitzhak, not Reb Moshe of Safat, but Reb Moshe Yitzhak, a patriarch of 80. I don't think Reb Moshe is that old. In fact, I know he is not that old. Anyway, we get back to the story, huh? Okay. Reb Moshe Yitzhak, a patriarch of 80, put down the pointer and the hare's leg with the thong that he used to whip bad pupils, and told us, "Go home." The assistant teacher came up to me and began with hesitation, "You always say that you could find your way home by yourself. Is this true?" "Yes, it's true." "You wouldn't get lost?" "Lost? I could get home in the middle of the night." "I've got something to do. I don't have the time to take you home. Can I trust you to get home by yourself?" Yes. "You won't tell your parents?" "Tell? No, never." "Is that a promise?" "I swear it on my ritual fringes." "You don't have to swear on your ritual fringes." "I wouldn't say anything even if they should kill me." "Well, all right. Go straight home and don't stop along the way. You'll tell them I took you to the gate of your house." "Yes." The assistant teacher helped me put on my overcoat, the hood, the gloves, the galoshes. The other boys laughed and made fun of me. They called me a sissy, a mama's boy, a little rabbi, a spoiled brat. One of them showed me his tongue. Another made the sign of a fig. The third said, "He is Joseph from the Bible. His father will make him a coat of many colors." Chapter 3. I wanted to boast to the boys that I was going home all by myself. But the assistant teacher apparently guessed my intentions, for he put his finger to his lips. I went out into the street, and for the first time I felt like a grown-up. How short the days were in winter, where it was just 3:15, but the sky was already a dusky blue. Several Cheder boys were sliding on the frozen gutter, trying to make the figure they call Little Shoemaker. When they saw me walking along, they began to yell and make faces as if about to chase me. One of them threw a snowball at me. I moved away from them quickly. They only waited for a chance to start a fight to show off their strength. On Gronia Street, I stopped in front of a shop window. Although the store belonged to a Jew, it sold the globes, bells, lights, and spangles Gentiles drape on their Xmas trees. A man holding a long pole lit the gas street lights. Women sat in the doorways, on boxes and on footstools, hawking their wares. Potato cakes, hot chickpeas, hot lima beans, bagels, oil cakes. The smells of these delicacies sent out were delicious. I began to fantasize what I would do if I had 1,000,000 rubles. I would buy all these goodies and make a feast for Shosha. We would munch on chocolate, halava, tangerines, and take a ride in a sleigh. I would stop going to Cheder and have a rabbi tutor me at home. I was so preoccupied with my reveries, I didn't notice that it had started snowing. A dense snow began to fall, dry and grainy as salt. My eyes crusted over. The street gas lights became covered with snow, and their shine turned orange, blue, green, violet. This wasn't merely snow, but snow mixed with sleet. Chunks of ice fell from the sky, and a strong wind began to blow. Maybe the world was coming to an end. It seemed to me that there was thunder and lightning. I started to run and fell several times. I picked myself up, and to my alarm, I saw that I had strayed into some other street. Here, the street lights weren't gas, but electric. I saw a trolley that wasn't drawn by horses. The rod extending from its roof to the wires overhead, spraying bluish sparks. A fear came over me. I was lost. I stopped passerby and asked them directions, but they ignored me. One person did answer me, but in Polish, a language I never learned. I could barely keep from crying. I wanted to turn back to where I had come from, but apparently I only strayed farther away. I passed brilliantly illuminated stores and a building with balconies and columns like some royal palace. Music was playing upstairs, and below, merchants were clearing away their goods from their stalls. The wind scattered kerchiefs, handkerchiefs, shirts, and blouses, and they whirled in the air like imps. That which I had always feared had apparently happened. The evil spirit had turned their wrath on me. Now the wind thrust me forward. Now it dragged me back. It blew up the skirt of my coat and tried to lift me in the air. I knew where the gales sought to carry me to Sodom and to beyond the mountains of darkness, to Asmodeus' castle, to Mount Seir, where the ground is copper and the sky is iron. I wanted to cry out to God to utter some prayer or incantation, but my mouth had gone numb and my nose was stiff as wood. The cold penetrated to my coat, and I thought through both vests. My eyelids became swollen, and I could no longer see in the white maelstrom. Suddenly, I heard a shrill clanging and shouts. Someone sprang and seized me from behind, half dragging, half carrying me off. Was this a demon? A wraith? A man in a long coat and a black beard turned white from the snow and frost shouted at me in rage, "Where are you running? Where do you creep to? You just missed being run over by a trolley car." I wanted to thank him, but I couldn't utter a word. The man asked, "Who lets a child out in such a blizzard? Have you no parents?" I still don't know why, but I said, "No, I'm an orphan." "An orphan, eh? Who do you live with?" "My grandfather." "And where does your grandfather live?" I gave a false address. 13 Krokmalna Street. "What are you doing here if you live at 13 Krokmalna? Got lost, eh?" "No." "Where were you going?" "I wanted to say the mourner's prayer," I replies, astonished by my own lie. "No synagogues or prayer houses on Krokmalanla? I see that you're lost. Come, I'll take you back." He took my hand and led me along. He asked, "What does your grandfather do? How does he make a living?" A porter," I said. The words issued from my mouth as if on their own. "An old man, a porter? He still got enough strength to carry?" "You hungry?" "No, yes." "Wait, I'll get you something." We walked only a few minutes. I had assumed I had strayed far from Krokmalna, but suddenly I saw it again. I wanted to get away from the man and my lies, but he held me firmly by the hand. He said, "Don't try to run away, boy. Poverty is no disgrace." He led me into a restaurant. I had passed this restaurant earlier in the day. Summer and winter, a cloud of steam hovered inside it, and it always smelled of fried onions, garlic, meat, soup, beer. At night, music was played there. I once heard my mother say that they served food that wasn't strictly kosher and that it was patronized by gangsters, thieves, and rabble. One boor there had bet that he could eat a whole roasted goose. He was about to swallow the last bite when he got sick and had to be taken to the hospital. Now, I was there myself. The floor was tiled in white and black, like a checkerboard. Burly men and fat women sat at tables covered in red. Some ate boiled beef, others drank beer from mugs. Many gas lights were flashing. Waiters in white aprons carried huge trays with dishes above the diners' heads. There were other rooms here. From one came the sound of singing and accordion, hands clapping. The man with me couldn't find a table. He stood with me in the crush and spoke to everyone and to no one. An orphan! Nearly got run over. Hungry, poor thing. Half frozen. Give him something to eat. It's a good deed. He begged in my behalf. Again, I tried to slip away from him, but he held me fast. The walls here were covered with red tapestries and hung with mirrors, so that I saw myself many times over. And here, my dear friend, is where we are going to stop for this evening. Another cliffhanger, because I know Donald likes cliffhangers. Okay. Did you find it now? Yeah, I think I found it now. There we go. Okay. Let's see if we... Oh, Regina has joined us. Sorry, Regina, I didn't see you come in. Okay. So, if you want to talk to me this evening, give me a call in a little while, huh? Okay. So, anyway, I want to thank you all for being here this evening. What do you think of the background, huh? Does it look good? We'll see, okay? Maybe we'll keep it. Maybe we'll change it. We'll see what happens. Okay. I want to thank you all for being here this evening. Don't forget that Wednesday night is the Torah study in depth with Rabbi A, and that Friday night at 8 p.m. is Kabbalat and Ma'ariv Shabbat service, and Shabbat morning at 10 a.m. is Shachrit and Musaf. Until then, and I will be back here on Monday, and we will continue. We will find out what happens to this lost boy. Does he get away from the man? Does he find his way home? What is going to happen to him? What are his parents going to say? Anyway, we shall find out next week. Until then, everyone, we will simply say, Laila Tov.